Welcome to the Migration Show with Mark Northam and Monica Grushka, the show for Australian migration agents and immigration lawyers, where we talk about the latest Australian immigration law, policy and much more, including your questions. Information discussed on the Migration Show is not intended as legal advice or immigration assistance and is current as of the date of the show's production. However, as migration law frequently changes, you should always refer to updated information. And now, from Sydney, the hosts of the Migration Show, immigration lawyer Mark Northam and registered migration agent Monica Grushka.
And welcome to the Migration Show. I'm immigration lawyer Mark Northam, and with me is registered migration agent Monica Grushka. Welcome to the show. Monica, how you doing?
I'm doing really good. How are you?
I'm busy. It's a busy time. It's been a while since we've done a show. How are your holidays? You busy? Relaxing?
They were lovely, but a little bit too slow, but it was perfect. Just rested. What about you?
Well, for me, it was moving house. 6 weeks kind of moving house. It was a long, painful process, soul destroying, and back breaking. I'm a little old for that stuff too, by the way. But anyway, we'll see. So,
well, I'm glad you settled back in.
Well,
you settled in, and we're settled in.
There we go. In the new house, we have our little studio set up here, so we kind of have the master control for all this video and all the stuff that you guys see, and we're able to record these shows because Monica is at her place, so that way we can kind of do these through the miracle of modern electronics and the internet, of course.
Absolutely.
There we go.
That's it. Exactly.
Well, we're back with stuff that migration agents and immigration lawyers want to know about. That's what we do on this show. It's all about for the industry. We're not going to tell you the basics of a 482 visa. No, that's for clients, and clients are wonderful. Yes, they are.
Most of the time.
Well, that's right. That's right. It's a double-edged sword, you know. You can't live them. You can't live without them, and you can't kill them. So.
That's so true.
All right.
Well. We've got some other battles that are pending, Mark Northam. How about you give us a bit of a rundown of what's happened since we've, come back to the real world of migration?
Well,
what's news?
Lots of things going on, and of course, our good friend Sergio Stagliorio publishes migration law updates, which is available at migrationlawupdates.com.au. And that's a great place to stay on top of the news. And I stay on top of the news, and Sergio does a good job. He's beavering away there, doing case law updates and all kinds of stuff. But we sort of wanted to pick a couple of things, again, for the industry that are interesting. I mean, there's a lot going on. You've got the new regional visas. You've got a lot of things going on. But we're sort of like to look at the underdog a little bit and look at the big picture, and we don't shy away from getting into the political thing a little bit. So we don't want to do a politics show, but a little bit.
No,
anyway,
at the end of the day, it does end up being like that, doesn't it? Yep, I know. Well, let's go, Mark. What's hot on the agenda today?
Well, we thought we'd talk a little bit about the Capstone Exam. This is the exam that new intending migration agents have to take after they've completed the 12-month full-time graduate diploma course taught by the several universities who teach that now. And we had broke a story last year that the failure rate on this exam is huge. It was upwards of 90% or so. And that's direct information from the department. That isn't stories and all that sort of stuff. So we are going to be welcoming back here in a couple of minutes Mr. Arnab Ghosh Roy from Melbourne. He's head of a student group that has been very vocal and very active in their opposition to the Capstone exam. Monica, why don't you tell us a little bit about Arnab and continue the story there?
Well, yeah, Arnab, congratulations, Arnab, because he's a new dad, which is
amazing. There we go.
But also, it makes it a little bit challenging because the whole idea of Arnab was completing the course, getting the capstone through, and then starting his home business. Unfortunately, that hasn't worked out because the issues of the capstone. Since we've spoken to Arnab and we've gotten feedback regarding the capstone review, we're in a position, and Arnab will be in a position to advise us of what the capstone review actually entailed, and whether or not it has been a success with new students who are resitting or had done their first exam. And from my understanding, the failure rates has not budged or have not budged at all. So it's very concerning to see what the review entailed. Was it much of a review? And the results of the capstone, did it change greatly or a little bit? Or so it's going to be interesting to hear Arnab tell us what the feedback is from the other students, because they've got a really tight group. And whenever anyone does a capstone, the students come together and they share their voices and their opinions. And naturally, they do come back to us and, and inform us of what the results were like, what questions were like, how it was, and, in their opinion, whether or not there was a change.
Well,
Arnab, was it good
or
was it bad?
Lots of good stuff on that, and we're now going to play an interview we did with him just a short while ago. And in a special interview today, we have directly from Melbourne. He is a graduate of the graduate diploma program in migration law and a current Bachelor of Laws student, Mr. Arnab Ghosh Roy. Now, Arnab, we interviewed last year, and if you'll remember, Arnab is the leader of a group of students who has been organizing some serious resistance to the Capstone exam. He told us some of the stories last year that were just heartbreaking about the disastrous effect of this exam on students, where you've got upwards of an 80-90% failure rate. Where these are students who have been all the way through the program, have graduated with their graduate diploma, and still, because of this exam and the gap between the information they were taught and the information on the exam, or what's required to pass the exam, has a horrifically high failure rate that just is astronomical. It's unheard of in professional exams. So, moving on, welcome to the show, Arnab, and I guess you've got some updated information for us about the latest intake of the exam that was made after they made some changes, after we exposed the horrible failure rate last year. Welcome to the show, Arnab. Hope you're doing all right.
And you're a new dad.
Hi,
Congratulations.
Mark, and hi, Monica. Thank you for that. So I just ran through the FOI, which is available in OMARA website. So intake 1, 2018, that's before the talk show, where graduate certificate pass rate is 14% and graduate diploma information was not available. Intake 2, 2018, the graduate certificate pass rate is 19%. Graduate diploma information not available. Now the first intake, 2019, after the talk show, the pass rate has dropped considerable amount, that is 13%, and graduate certificate information not available. Intake 2, 2019, the pass rate for the graduate diploma students had increased considerably, that is 27%. Intake 3, 2019, again it dropped after the changes of all the exam structure and everything. It come back to 25%, so drop of 2%.
Wow.
And graduate certificate information is not available.
So 25% is the latest number in terms of the pass rate, meaning 75% of the students, of the graduate diploma students who took the latest iteration of the exam after all the changes and improvements that everyone was bragging about, 75% failure rate. That's shocking.
Wow. It is shocking.
And it's shocking more because these students are qualified from the university approved by OMARA. They had their own standards, university's own standard, Australian qualification framework, and OMARA's own audit and standards and requirement. And those are quite prestigious university, especially Griffith University, Victoria University, Murdoch University. And those students are failing, which is a matter of concern.
Wow. Now,
absolutely.
Now, wow. I guess here's a question that a lot of people have asked us, and I'm going to ask you. I mean, clearly, either the problem is the universities and what they're teaching and how they're teaching it, or the problem is the exam, or the problem is both. What would you say to that?
Okay. Firstly, I will tell you, I had gone throughout the world. I had done my own research. This is absolutely my own research. So I had gone through all the law and the bar council. So OMARA, if I take OMARA as a kind of a bar council or kind of a authority who give the license.
Yep.
I found I am absolute a benchmark. I absolutely agree with Omara. They can set up an exam which can be up to their own expectation, and that's absolutely fine because they are giving the license to the students. Now comes the onus to the university, because they are the one who is teaching the students, who is preparing the students to become migration professional. And to become the migration law professional, you have to pass that exam. So it's no point blaming Omara. Is the point is from the university. The problem is from the university. University is not teaching at par, where the students get qualification, the certificate, and can go and practice because they're not able to pass the exam, Capstone exam. So there is a big academic gap between the student at the university examination standards and the Omara and the College of Law expectation standards. So that gap need to cover, and which is frustrating, daunting. I put myself as an example. I am 38 years old. I had a family. I had now a HEX debt of $25,000. I had cut down my lifestyle from my daily routine. I had taken enormous amount of annual leave, and I had invested my time. I keep on studying a whole night, most of the days, because I need to understand. And because of the standards, there's a gap between the standards. I can't practice my qualification, and now it comes. Now it triggers another bill, human rights bill, because I am qualified from an Australian university under the Australian qualification framework, and I should go and practice in the industry. And the second thing, when we went for the graduation ceremony, there are IT students, there are business management students, there are osteopath students. All of the other students are happy, but the migration law students are pale, dim, grim. They are upset because they know this degree is basically useless.
Without the Capstone
that's a
exam.
psychological issue. Without a Capstone exam.
So this Capstone exam has effectively blocked the ability of all these graduates, 75% of them who take that exam, from becoming licensed, rendering their degree useless.
Useless.
You know, you wonder whether the school's going to give any refunds on that, because I take your point, Arnab. You know, the exam is what it is. And if the schools are not properly disclosing the existence of exam, disclosing their knowledge about the failure rate of the exam, and properly preparing students, I think that really points the finger at the universities who are teaching this course, that they are simply not preparing their students to the point where a reasonable number of them can pass the exam. That's a problem.
I agree with you, Mark. One thing bothers me about Omara is using the Capstone exam as a punishing instrument. I don't know the name of the agent, and I don't want to disclose that. I can disclose the complaint number. That is C for cat, M for mango, P for Peter, 42141. The decision been published 2nd December 2019. The agent been suspended, and agent been slapped with a Capstone exam to re-register himself for back to the practice. So this Capstone exam is being used by Omara as a punishing instrument. That's only one thing bother me about the Omara, or make me upset as a migration law student. Apart from that, I am very much happy with the exam or thing. Other thing, my point is the university thing. University need to increase the standard. University need to make us prepare better for the exam. University give us the resources so we can finish the degree and go back to the College of Law and we can pass the exam. And instead of doing that, the universities are putting the pathways to become Bachelor of Law student, which I am currently doing. When I am one of those students who had started. So for me, there was no brochure with the university publication saying pathway to Bachelor of Law. I just did it myself. I got few exemptions, and I started doing Bachelor of Law.
But if you're not ready to do law, or you're not able to do law for whatever reason, certainly the school should be preparing you sufficiently so that you have a reasonable chance of passing that exam, assuming you passed all the school's exams. And that just sounds like it's not happening.
That's not happening, and I will have only 3 chances in my lifetime to pass the capstone exam. For the fourth chance, I have to talk to the board of the director of the College of Law. So if he will allow me to sit and take another chance, then I will be allowed, and I can, if I pass on the 4th chance. So the thing is that
it's like groveling. You're having to grovel.
Exactly. Exactly. Like, I'm not going to actually finish I'm not going to finish the exam. If I don't pass the exam in 3 chances, if I want to sit and take another one, I had to request College of Law citing some valid reason. I don't know what is the valid reason though. And if I don't pass on that 4th chance, basically this degree has been wasted. No more in my life, I'm not going to use it unless I study Bachelor of Law and I again get my registration with the state authority, and then later on, due to the course, I become an accredited immigration lawyer, or give advice to the client for the tribunal stuff.
Right.
So that's why I can practice the migration law. Otherwise, this degree has been wasted. If I have so that's something disturbing. As being a student, being a normal human being, living in a country where the human rights should be uplifted, having a freedom of speech, I feel myself I've been in a sideline where I had wasted my time and my degree.
Well, that's outrageous,
That's
Arnab.
something.
And I think you have the support of a lot of people. And I think, with some new developments that we're going to be breaking this week, it's going to just make things that much more important that this capstone exam situation be given a very careful look. Thank you again so much for being with us. And by the way, I'm not sure if you heard Monica when you were just coming on. You might have talked over each other, but she wanted to congratulate you. You're a new father, are you?
Thank you. His name is, my son's name is Aryan, and I think he will be another. And Aryan means warrior in Latin language. So I think he will be a migration professional or immigration lawyer in future.
Well, he's as far as being
got one of the best examples.
That's right. His dad is a great example. Well, thank you for being with us, Arnab. Congratulations on the birth of your son, and we'll be back in touch. Look forward to future updates.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Arnab.
Mark. Thanks, Monica.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Well, that was quite something, Monica. I don't know what to say about that. That was shocking.
I'm speechless. It was shocking. I'm speechless. It's absolutely devastating. But we all knew it.
Yeah, this is just a continuation of the misery that's been wreaked upon these people from last year. These students who have done nothing but graduate the graduate diploma and expecting to become a migration agent.
Yep, but the certificate that they get is useless. It's useless. It's not
until they pass the capstone. That's right. Well, hey, speaking of capstone, did you know that there is some migration agent Christmas presents that we missed? Did you know that?
No.
Yes. No. Santa had something to say about that.
Ho, ho,
really?
Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas.
You know who that was?
Santa?
That was Santa LCA. Did you know who Santa LCA is? The Law Council of Australia. You remember now, for those of you who remember, last year, we broke the story of the LCA putting submissions into the government that argued, among other things, that migration agents should have their duties restricted in terms of representing at the tribunal and things like that. Well, that was very interesting. The LCA has become very involved in, as we saw with last year's submissions, about what migration agents should and shouldn't be allowed to do. Of course, migration agents, after deregulation, will be their competitor. Well, I didn't realize this, but there was some wonderful, wonderful Christmas presents. There we go, a little Christmas music for you there. Some wonderful Christmas presents for migration agents from Santa LCA. Yes, indeed.
Oh my gosh.
I was surprised to see this, and I haven't heard about this anywhere else. I haven't heard about this from any of our usual friends at the migration agent organizations. They've been awfully quiet about this. I wonder why. Could it be they want lawyers to sign up as members so they could make more money? I don't know.
Cha-ching.
Anybody?
CBD?
Yes, that's right. Anyway, we have some very special presents that were published by the LCA in December, and we haven't heard about it. But we're here to tell you about it. We're here to break the story once again of the LCA putting their sticky beaks into the business of RMAs. Yes, indeed. They're not RMAs. Well, they have to be sort of now, but they won't be for long. But they're very interested. So they cooked up some special gifts for RMAs. We're going to tell you all about it. It's our special news story coming right up. And in news this week, we've got some major ones. Last year, we broke the story of the Law Council of Australia Immigration Law Group trying to say that migration agents shouldn't do tribunal work. They very quickly backed off of that and called it a drafting error, and then just limited it to migration agents shouldn't do work at the general division of the AAT. Some fake news that was put out there a long time ago, 2 years ago, I think, by a particular industry organization for migration agents, that immigration agents cannot even now represent clients at the AAT General Division. Well, you know what, folks? That's fake news. It's wrong. Migration agents represent clients for citizenship matters and character matters at the General Division of the AAT all the time. And as long as they're properly prepared, they are absolutely allowed to do it. Read the regulations. And to that particular organization, maybe one of these days you'd like to correct that by email to everyone. Until you do, we'll be reminding folks, don't be giving away that AAT General Division work. You do prepare yourselves, because it's a different kettle of fish than the Migration Review Division. Anyway, on to our news. The Law Council of Australia in December released or published to the government, and specifically to the OMARA, the Migration Agents Registration Authority, its submission regarding the new OMARA Code of Conduct. And this is called the Third Round Consultation Response from the Law Council of Australia. And you'll find a link to this on our site.
Yes.
Now, last year, the Law Council had a lot to say about all the things that migration agents shouldn't be allowed to do, and the things that they wanted more English, they want supervision, they want more and more and more. And this is, remember, with the deregulation bill coming, lawyers and migration agents are going to be entirely separate groups other than lawyers with a restricted practicing certificate who choose also to be migration agents for an interim period while they're transitioning. So this is essentially the lawyers telling the government, here's what the people we are competing against, or will be soon enough, here's all the restrictions you should put on them. So I don't think it's fair. No. Well, it's interesting that they're so interested in putting restrictions on their competitors. There are about twice as many migration agents as there are migration lawyers with a MARA number, which is you have to be both now to do this. And yes. I'm frankly concerned that whether the RMA business as a profession would even be viable under some of these changes. So we're going to read to you parts of this, and we would encourage you to read the whole thing yourself. And if you agree, that's great. And if you disagree, take some action. Do something. Because the lawyers are there, and full disclaimer, I'm a lawyer, so I'm technically represented by the LCA, although they'll probably put me on I don't know. Maybe they're going to say don't represent me anymore. I don't know. Anyway,
Impossible.
Look, this is about opinion. This is about freedom of opinion, talking about these things. We're not here to blast the LCA. The LCA does a lot of great things. In fact, they've got a great conference coming up that they might just not cancel my ticket for. I don't know. Anyway, so or mine. Yeah, well, there you go. So anyway, look, the first thing the LCA says, and this is on their, this would be page 6, is page that the law, 6, yes. Yep, the Law Council maintains that the new code should not apply to legal practitioners who would be exempt from the OMARA scheme as proposed in the deregulation bill. So they're clearly saying all this stuff they're proposing should only apply to registered migration agents, including RMAs who also have a restricted practicing certificate. They're in their supervision period.
Wow. Well, I don't agree with that. Do you agree? I don't. Look, what goes to the geese goes to the gander. That's my theory, and I understand that the Law Council maintains that view. However, how can someone who is a practicing lawyer, who has obviously studied but not studied the graduate diploma the graduate diploma in migration law, have any idea, if they've not come from an immigration background or setting or work experience, be in a position to advise? I'm just trying to understand. So I was thinking, my suggestion is, if you have lawyers who are wanting to practice in immigration law that don't sit the postgraduate or the what's it called again?
Graduate diploma.
That one, the graduate diploma in migration law, then where is the certainty that they have the knowledge, considering that when you do, because I'm undertaking my law degree as well.
Congratulations.
Oh gosh.
That'll keep you busy.
It is keeping me busy. There is nothing really apart from some high court matters in the administrative law subject that reflects anything to do with immigration. And I'll tell you something, Mark, if I was reverse, if I was a lawyer and I wanted to get into immigration law, I would do the graduate diploma in migration law. I would feel very uncomfortable and practicing in this field without the background knowledge that the course provides. So that's my point that I wanted to make.
I think it's a great point, because let's face it, the elephant in the room here is the fact that someone coming out of the 12 full months of full-time intensive graduate level immigration law study is going to have a fairly high level there, or they should if the schools are doing their jobs right. Compare that with a law graduate who might have studied a handful of high court cases about refugees and such in very broad administrative law principles, but has no practical experience. So if the idea is to protect the community from people who don't have a depth of experience and knowledge, why is everything being aimed at RMAs? That's a very interesting question. Well, continuing here, an item 4 of the executive summary, there are basically 2 points that we've picked here that they want to impose upon migration agents. Monica, why don't you want to read the 2 there that we've got under item 4 there, and then we're going to read you the details for those coming up.
Sounds good. So the Law Council supports the finalisation of the code and makes a number of recommendations to further enhance consumer protection. They call it further enhance consumer protection and bolster professional standards. These include that all persons other than legal practitioners seeking to become an RMA should undergo a mandatory period of supervised practice.
That's the first one.
Yeah. That's
and the second one is?
The second one. Yeah. The Australian government urgently revisit the need for a tiered registration framework for registered migration agents, not lawyers, but
registered
RMAs.
Migrations. Now, this is something that you need to pay attention to, this tiered framework, because they're about to, if this thing gets adopted as proposed, the world of RMAs is going to change in huge ways. Let's start with the, we're gonna jump over here to item 14, which is on page 9. If you're following at home in your hymnals at home. And so this one talks about supervision. Now, supervision for RMAs was originally proposed in the Kendall report several years ago, which is sort of the beginning for a lot of this. And most of the Kendall report was adopted, but this part wasn't. And and people I talked to, essentially, they get to the point where it just wasn't practical. How many RMAs are going to want to offer full-time paid positions to interns to teach them everything they know, and then they turn around and have a new competitor? How many RMAs are even set up to do this, to have someone else in their employ? How many people have an office or a location where they're comfortable having someone come in every day? I mean, a lot of RMAs work out of their house. They may not want to have someone else coming in to be supervised every day, and all the red tape that comes with that. Workers' compensation. Suppose the supervised employee comes and they slip on your kitchen floor because your kid left a banana peel there. Yeah. I don't know.
That's it, exactly. You've got dogs. You've got dogs.
That's right. Suppose the dog gets a little angry there. So, there's all kinds of stuff going on that could potentially do this. So that's, I think, why the supervision requirement or the suggestion that RMAs get supervision has not been set up yet. Now, lawyers have a supervision requirement of 2 years after they get out of law school. They hold a restricted practicing certificate for 2 years. And then after they complete the 2 years of full-time supervision, they can get an unrestricted certificate. And that's great because a lot of law firms are set up. There are a lot more of them. And law firms are generally tend to be set up more in a commercial setting. And, we talked a little bit last year about this in some of our interviews with folks that we had on the show. So, we had Marianne Dickey on, and she was doing her paper on this, as I recall, and she had some comments, didn't she, Monica?
She did, Marianne Dickey, and I have invited her to come on the show, and I look forward to getting Marianne Dickey on here. My understanding is that the research paper, the thesis that she's done, is in its final draft, and I think the timing of this is perfect. I look forward to Marianne Dickey coming on the show and letting us know when her thesis is ready for publication, because we would love to promote that. I'm very fascinated to hear of the results.
That's fantastic. So here's what the lawyers want the RMAs to have. Let's see, starting at item 17, the period should be no less than 6 months full-time and up to a maximum of 12 months full-time, depending on the category of Tier 1 registration to be sought upon initial registration. We'll tell you about that in a minute. That is a horror show, is what that is.
Just a quick thing, Mark, if anyone wants to know what I think of it, it's exactly like the state-sponsored 491 visas for different states, all the different tiers for the same subclass of visa. It is a joke. Sorry, but it's ridiculous.
The complexity level of this stuff just goes through the roof.
Yeah, and it's
here's
deliberate.
Another one. During the supervision period, the person would be permitted to work under the supervision of another RMA or legal practitioner supervisor. The person would not be authorized to provide immigration assistance because they are not an RMA.
Don't you, Mark, if I can just stop you there. I just love how everything is not an RMA, no advice. It's really condescending, this report. Don't you agree?
Yes.
Don't you think that?
I've got a problem with this because, and again, this is supervised practice comes after you pass the capstone. And that's a big if you pass the capstone, given the huge failure rate on that exam. We'll talk about that.
Absolutely.
As we spoke about with Arnab, and that's a continuing issue. So the fact here is, again, if this is 12 months of supervision, that's 12 months where they can't give immigration advice. So what can they do? Make coffee, make copies, help fill out forms maybe? That's again delays your ability to really work and function as an RMA for an entire year if this thing gets adopted. Well, here it gets better.
Yes.
All supervisors would be pre-approved by OMARA in accordance with relevant criteria relating to the supervisor's good standing within the profession and ability to train the person in the field of migration law and practice. Ability would be determined both on legal and practical ability to provide substantive supervision to a person seeking to enter the industry. Supervision terms should be agreed between the parties and lodged with OMARA. OMARA should develop a standard supervised practice agreement and toolkit that can be downloaded from its website. Well, so now not all RMAs can be supervisors. Now it's going to require some additional criteria relating to ability, relating to good standing, relating to, you have to wonder whether they're going to say you have to have X years of experience, maybe.
Another tier somewhere in there.
There are going to be a lot of tiers, all right, but they're not all in the regulation.
That's it. Everyone's going to be crying.
That's right.
Ridiculous.
So you're going to have another tier of agents that are going to be pre-approved as supervisors. So not all will be able to. So having an unrestricted RMA is not enough. Even though in law, if you have an unrestricted license, you automatically have the ability to be a supervisor as long as you have competent knowledge of the thing. You don't have to pass a test. You don't have to be approved by a government organization. You just have to have an unrestricted certificate. So that's kind of interesting.
It is, isn't it? It totally is not comparative.
And we've got one more here about supervision. This is item 20. Inadequate or improper supervision should give rise to adverse consequences for the supervisor, including restriction, suspension, or bar upon holding supervisor status, as well as potentially professional disciplinary action for the supervisor.
Ridiculous.
Come on.
it's like, you know what it is? Can I just say something, Mark? It's like you choose to become an RMA, we look down on you, and you are, I don't know, you are inferior in the industry. That's how I feel.
I can't imagine who might think that.
Yeah, I know who. We have a good idea.
Yeah. Here's some more goodies for you. Yeah. A supervisor's failure to complete an agreed period of supervised practice should be reported to OMARA by the supervisor along with the reasons for that failure. So if you're a supervisee and you get sick or you decide to have a child or any of the things that might happen, or maybe you had a problem with your supervisor, maybe your supervisor didn't act appropriately. Here we go to the Me Too era. And all of this, it then is the supervisor's job to report to the OMARA along with the reasons for that failure. Well, you can imagine if there was something where there was a disagreement, you got to wonder what side of the story is going to get told to the OMARA. And is that going to go in then the supervisee's permanent record with the OMARA? And is that, what consequences are going to be? I mean, you've really got to have, for that kind of a thing, you've really got to think about whether there's enough checks and balances so that you get both sides of the story. It's like employment law. If you only have one side of the story being reported, the opportunities for problems there go up.
Oh, they sure do.
Yep.
They sure do.
Yeah, we got one more here. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go for it.
All right.
No, go. Keep going. We're on a roll.
All right. And finally, it says, the Law Council has serious concerns that, unless approached with significant rigor, there's a word for you, rigor.
Rigor.
Is that a guy who works on a ship or something? All right. Significant rigor. The concept of supervision could easily be reduced to a matter of pretense or form rather than ensuring genuine supervision of the conduct of the RMA. Of particular concern will be circumstances where the RMA and supervisor are not physically co-located in the same premises, let alone in the same country. Well,
Wow.
all right.
What?
So now it's a matter of not just supervision, but what does that supervision consist of? And this is regulation upon regulation being heaped upon RMAs trying to get into this business. As if the Capstone, 87% failure rate is not enough. Yes. Now we've got this. But wait, there's more. We have tiered registration framework.
Oh,
this is a whole new concept. And again, this is summary, the lawyers. Yeah. There are going to be a lot of tiers in the tiered registration.
I believe that the LCA doing whatever they can to get rid of registered migration agents. That's what this submission is all about, making legislation or policy, whatever you like to call it, to get rid of and facilitate or be the catalyst for attrition in the industry. And so they're going to control what they can control, and that would be the potential graduates. So because obviously we're going to make a point today about what about the people, for example, of myself or other people who are established businesses or have companies, have employees that are registered migration agents. Obviously, I'll be practicing as a lawyer, hopefully in the not too distant future. But what about the individuals who want to take this on, who want to recruit registered migration agents? How on earth is that possible? So my theory is this is all a method of getting rid of registered migration agents. That's my belief. What about your thoughts, Mark?
It seems to me that heaping all this regulation and these many, many hurdles, you're just about to hear about a bunch more here, upon people trying to become an RMA, there's only one logical result here, and that is that the number of new RMAs is going to go through the floor. And right. I have to believe that somewhere, somehow, that's the goal in all this. At least that's the end result that appears to be fairly predictable from this. Especially given the disastrous Capstone exam, 87, 90% failure rate. I mean, what kind of a professional exam has that high a failure rate? That means one of two things. That either means the schools are doing a piss poor job at educating those graduates, or it means that the exam's unfair, or it means both. But something is broken in the world of new RMAs here. And as if that's not enough, now we have the tier, and if mandatory supervision is not enough, let's just keep on going here. Come on down to the tiered registration framework.
Come on
Monica,
down.
you want to read number 24 there?
I'm going to read number 24, sir. Okay, number 24. The Law Council recommends the Australian government urgently revisit the need for a urgently, you know, and all these words. So there's registration framework or a system as a consumer. It's always back to the consumer, which I believe is a load of baloney. It's not about the consumer. Protection measures and to strengthen the integrity of the migration advice industry. Arrangements should be put in place to ensure that a tiered system properly reflects the competency and practice capability of each RMA. So the Department of Home Affairs,
that's tier one.
Tier one.
Right. So the big picture here is we're going to have essentially in all of this 3 different tiers or types of agents. And if you want to practice in different areas, well, you are going to have to register and be approved under this system for these different tiers. So we have tier 1 type of agent, and that tends to be agents who do a DHA, visa applications, essentially. It says tier 1 could be separated into 3 categories. We have categories within tiers. Remember that. You'll know what that means in a sec.
Just think of Tasmania state-sponsored visa for the 491. All the categories that you can apply for.
You know, this thing is so complex, it makes the Canberra Matrix look like Tinker Toys. It's just ridiculous. So we have tier 1 could be separated into 3 categories. Category 1, all visa matters. Category 2, protection visa matters only. And category 3, student visa matters only. So you can sort of register to qualify for which of these you want to do in your practice. If you only want to do student visa matters, you might be tier 1, category 3. If you want to do all visa matters, it's tier 1, category 1. But here's the kicker, folks.
Oh gosh, here we go.
Yep.
Here we go.
Separate capstone assessments could be developed for each category. Each category of tier 1 registration.
So hold on, Mark. There's more capstone after doing the
way more capstones. It appears there may be a total of 8 new capstone exams to cover all these tiers. As if one wasn't enough. As if eliminating 12 or 87% of students wasn't enough. Here comes some more capstone exams. And you know what they're going to be doing at the College of Law, where the price of a capstone exam is well north of $2,000.
Oh,
there we go.
Do we think these are free? Do you think that these 8 additional capstones potentially, do you think they're going to be for free?
I don't think so.
No.
So
definitely not.
So it says separate capstone assessments could be developed for each category of tier 1 registration. The existing capstone assessment would suffice for those seeking to practice in category 1. That's the one that with the 87% failure rate. A more focused capstone assessment could be developed for those seeking accreditation in categories 2 or 3. So if it's 2 or 3, if all you want to do is student visas, you have a separate capstone exam that's focused on that, or a separate one on protection visas. So now we're up to, count them, 1, 2, 3 capstone exams, but we're not done yet. Then we have tier 2, the Administrative Appeals Tribunal. Remember last year, the Law Council very quickly explained away as a drafting error the fact that agents shouldn't be allowed to practice at the tribunal. Well, here we go. This is sort of another crack at it, I think. Prerequisite for entry into tier 2 would be tier 1, category 1 registration and the successful completion of a further capstone assessment. So you got to do 1 capstone assessment to get into tier 1, category 1, do all visas. Then you got to get another capstone assessment to get here to get out of tier 1 and into tier 2, unless exempted by OMARA. Tier 2 could further be separated into, so now we're up to 1, 2, 3, that's the 4th capstone exam. Here we go. Tier 2 could be further separated into 3 categories reflecting the various types of matters before the AAT. We have category 1, general division matters, category 2, refugee IAA matters, and category 3, migration matters. And here we go. Separate capstone assessments could be developed for each category of tier 2 registration. These assessments could be developed by Omara in conjunction with the subject matter experts from the AAT. Well, how about the subject matter expert with the College of Law whose name is not allowed to be said? They won't tell us who it is. I think we all have a fairly good idea. And if you take a look at the FOI documents and read carefully, that's very interesting. Why does that person's name have to be a secret? And what do they have to hide? Yeah, that's a good question. Anyway, so subject matter, we should say secret subject matter experts.
Secret is secret. Secret subject matter.
Secret squirrel over there has got some things to talk about, starting with the 87% failure rate. A condition of maintaining Tier 2 register. Now, this is a new one. The word maintaining there is very interesting because that would seem to imply a renewal, an annual or some sort of recurring requirement. So not only do we have to potentially get to these tiers by passing more capstones, but then we have to maintain the level. So a condition of maintaining Tier 2 registration could be the requirement for an RMA, not the lawyers, to have completed a minimum amount of CPD relating to merits review conducted by the AAT since their last application for repeat registration was made. Well, I don't know if the AAT is going to get into the business of CPD.
Why would they?
They can't even get through the case load they've got. Do we really?
There's no
really think they've got? Come on. All right.
No way.
So we had 4 coming into Tier 2, and now we've got 3 more.
Stop
All
it.
right. So that's
This
5,
is
6,
not
and 7 for the 3 different things. But wait, there's more. Now we're on to Tier 3, and that's called ministerial intervention requests.
Woo.
Well, the published statistics indicate that only 2 to 3% of these are getting approved anyway. So I don't know what the point is, but let's continue anyway. So here we have Tier 3. That's right. Well, yeah, you know, you must have read my mind there. It solves everything. Here it comes.
It solves everything. Is the capstone.
That's right. Ministerial intervention requests, Tier 3. Prerequisite for entry into this tier should be Tier 2 registration and successful completion of a further capstone examination.
I thought LegendCom was complicated. This is complicated.
And that's number 8. So that's where the number of 8 capstone exams comes into this. Now, would a person actually have to take 8? Well, no, because they'd probably have to take the first one they take, and then they'd take one to get into Tier 2, and then one to get into ministerial. So I think you have to take at least 4 to be able to get through this cycle the way they've proposed it.
Wow.
So,
and plus the one at the end of your degree when you graduate.
No, that includes that one. So I think 1 plus 3 I think is the fast lane here. A condition of here we go. This assessment could be developed by Omara in conjunction with secret subject matter experts from the department's ministerial intervention unit. Now they're going to be in the CPD business. A condition of maintaining Tier 3 registration could be the requirement for an RMA to have completed a minimum amount of CPD. Well, you know what? The people offering CPD and full disclosure, we do CPD. Although we're retooling our CPD offerings, exciting things coming on that front. But the CPD providers, like certain industry organizations that offer it, some at bargain basement prices and others not, and others free, they're going to be happy about all this. Anyway, to have admitted a completed amount of CPD related since their last application for repeat registration was made. Well, so far now you're going to be doing to do the whole bailiwick of everything. You're going to have to do CPD about ministerial, CPD about the AAT, and CPD about lodging visas and such. That's a lot of CPD.
Goodness. That's more than the normally it takes, if you do it all in one hit, it's normally a day if you do one of those large ones. But
I don't know.
This now, how many? Could you imagine? My goodness.
I'm not so worried about the CPD, but all these capstones. I mean, if they're going to continue,
there's a problem, capstone it.
That's
there's
right.
A problem, capstone it.
Yeah, well, he's going to get these our agents are going to get capped, all right.
What is it? They've already capped. That's what it is. We're going to cap.
I think the point is to cap the number of new agents. Maybe that's the point.
Yes, that's what it is. Exactly right.
Anyway,
we know.
So
we know.
Those are the changes. Those are the high points. There's a bunch of other stuff in here, like increasing the amount of professional indemnity insurance. Of course,
I've got a point I want to say about that.
Go ahead.
Can I just ask you something, Mark? So if where's the evidence to suggest, and I'm assuming that they are saying this, my opinion, to increase insurance is to assume that have there been claims made, and the claims made against registered migration agents have been in excess of what the cutoff amount is. So why, that's my question, what is the evidence available that claims against RMAs are in excess of what the, what the minimum requirement level is for cover? So
I don't see any data about that.
I think, Mark, this is all a flog, a big spin. You throw enough mud and it sticks. That's what I want to say.
It's painting.
This is what it is.
It appears to be a crusade to massively increase the red tape, registration requirements, assessment requirements, insurance requirements, supervision requirements, and on and on and on it goes for registered migration agents. But where is the evidence that all this is needed? And is it appropriate for the lawyers' body, who essentially will be competing with agents, to start saying what the people they're competing against, or will be soon enough as deregulation hits, are they the ones who should be dictating or suggesting all this administrative and regulatory and assessment burden putting on their own competitors?
Exactly. And why? Where has this all come from? Let's go back to basics. In your opinion, Mark, why do you think that this has all come about? Straight from the hip. Go for it.
Well,
your opinion.
I think it all comes from deregulation, frankly. It's a shrinking business. We all know it's a shrinking business. And each group, lawyers and migration agents, want their piece of it. And it appears to be a way to essentially reduce the number of registered migration agents by adding on huge amounts of regulation and assessment and requirements that not in the history of the profession has this been seen before. And I've got a question. And Monica, I don't know, you tell me, but I want to know why we're the only ones out here talking about this. This thing was published a couple of months ago. Where are the organizations that claim to represent RMAs? Where aren't they kicking and screaming at the thought of imposing all these capstone exams and all this extra red tape and supervision on the industry? Why is it just us? Once again,
I know.
Where are the industry bodies, and why aren't they out there loudly pushing back against this, so that the government sees that RMAs truly have representation? Or maybe, could it possibly be that the hint of all these CPD dollars, all these new CPD courses and all these different things might just affect whether some industry organizations are going to push back hard against this, or sit back and hope to reap those CPD dollars if they sit back quietly and allow these things to happen? Well, I got a problem with that.
Absolutely.
That's no secret. Monica, what do you think?
Oh, good. I think it's a massive, discrepancy in the whole industry. I think it's just bullying tactics, to be honest with you. I really do. I really find it bullying. And no matter what, when I finish my law studies and become a practicing lawyer, that I would never do this to anyone. And I want to protect where I've come from. I want to protect the individuals who started as a registered migration agent. And there are people out there who've been penalized for choosing an occupation for no real reason. There is nothing to say in this review why punish registered migration agents. And I'll tell you something. If the individuals who are responsible for the review of the Code of Conduct, do you really think that it's going to stop people who are passionate about being a registered migration agent? In actual fact, you're pushing people to become lawyers. And I know that's probably not what you want, because the market then gets flooded just the way it is now. And so what these apparent individuals are who are writing this. So we do know of a few individuals who you can't beat them, join them. So if you're wanting to get rid of the RMAs, fair enough. They end up becoming lawyers anyway. That's exactly what I'm doing. That's exactly what a lot of other people are doing.
That's right.
Who haven't completed or haven't passed the capstone. So they are studying law. So I don't understand, good. Those people you wanted to get rid of, you got rid of them. But they're coming back anyway, and they're becoming lawyers. And, what happens if you wanted to become an RMA? You don't have to. Become a lawyer. Easier.
There you go. Well, it's good for the law
So, you
schools.
know-
I suppose with all the coronavirus and all that business going down and education dollars going down, they'll jump up the law school admissions. Well, look, we didn't, our show is often a mix of humor, having a good time, and taking a fairly brutal and unvarnished look at some of the more contentious issues. Sorry if today's show's been a little bit hardcore, but frankly, these are some pretty big changes. But look, no one is exempt from the scrutiny of Mark and Monica. Next week, we will have these
Never.
skills assessors, and we've got a few things to say about them. And there you have it. So,
Yes.
on behalf of Monica and myself, thank you so much for being with us this week. Appreciate you sticking with us. If you have any comments, if you think we're right, if you think we're wrong, please tell us. We welcome all
Absolutely.
comments.
Always, always, always. Over and out, Mark.
We'll see you next time.